Hello. On this edition of MTA Commuter Connections, we'll discuss the launch of new MARC Rail weekend service between Baltimore and Washington. There's always lots to do in our nation's capital. We've got a few interesting and exciting suggestions of places to see on your next visit to Washington. We'll discuss MTA Safety and answer your customer questions and concerns. Coming up right here. Hello, I'm Anthony Brown. Welcome to MTA Commuter Connections. MARC Commuter Rail patrons have been looking for MARC weekend service to complement the exceptional MARC weekday service between Baltimore and Washington for quite a while now. Well, those hopes and requests for MARC weekend service have finally become a reality. Governor Martin O'Malley and Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown recently announced the start of MARC weekend service, which is scheduled to begin next month. MARC weekend service will be a win-win for the Baltimore-Washington region. Dave Johnson, MARC Rail's Chief Information Officer, joins us with more on this exciting news. Welcome, Dave.
Glad to be here.
Exciting news it is.
It is very exciting. We'll be starting weekend service on December 7th on the MARC Penn line between Washington Union Station and Penn Station in Baltimore, with a limited number of trains continuing on to Martin State Airport out in Baltimore County.
All right, and you specifically said the Penn line,
yes.
So I imagine the service is just on that line?
Correct. Weekend services on the Penn line only. For those that are unfamiliar with MARC, we do also offer service on the weekdays on the Brunswick line from Washington west to Montgomery County, Frederick, Brunswick, and even into Harpers Ferry and Martinsburg, West Virginia. We also offer service on the Camden line on the weekdays between Washington and Camden Station.
Okay, so this weekend service on the Penn line, I said it in my opening, it's been requested for quite some time.
It has been our singularly most requested enhancement to MARC train service, certainly in the time I've been here. Passengers want the weekend service, and discussing it with passengers and listening to their feedback. We worked with the state to secure the proper funding and initiate this service. Based on initial feedback, since we made the announcement, I think it's going to be extremely popular with our passengers, our existing passengers, and I think with new passengers too, that'll find the more leisure-based weekend service for a leisure trip to Washington, or if you live in Washington to come up to Baltimore. And of course, if you have to catch a flight out of BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport, that's going to open up a lot of new options.
Okay, and I believe, I understand 9 trips on Saturday, 6 trips on Sunday?
Correct.
And I imagine the full specific schedules are available on the website?
Absolutely. Visit mta.maryland.gov. It's one of the first things that pops up on the webpage. It's a MARC weekend service. You can click there and download specific schedules and times. A couple other things that are important to note. If you have a MARC weekly or monthly pass currently and you ride with us, your pass will be honored on the weekend. And also, if you want to purchase a single ride ticket or a one-way ticket, those fares will be the same as they are on the weekdays.
And what are those fares?
Between Baltimore and Washington is $7, BWI to Washington is $6, and Odenton to Washington is $5.
In addition to the weekend service, some other changes, new locomotives also on the horizon for the MARC service?
Absolutely. We're about to secure an order for 10 additional locomotives. This will complement the 26 that we purchased a couple of years ago. All these locomotives meet the current environmental and safety standards, but especially with environmental reduced carbon and soot output. It's going to be very important to us because we take the MTA's Go Green initiative very seriously. And that's part of our contribution to the MTA and getting passengers back and forth between Washington, not just quickly and safely, but in an environmentally friendly manner.
Great. So you'll be helping the environment. You'll be saving money. $7.
$7.
That's a great ride. Great value when you think about parking in DC. So it's a great option there. What do persons need to know if they want to be a part of this service?
Okay, come on out and ride with us. You can purchase your ticket at most stations. We have a ticket machine or a ticket agent at the Amtrak stations. If there's not an agent at the station, you can purchase your ticket from the conductor on board the train. with cash. We do not accept credit or debit cards on the train, but cash is accepted on the train. Come on out and ride with us and see what you think of the weekend service and enjoy exploring Washington and Baltimore.
Sounds great. Thanks, Dave. When MARC Weekend Service launches next month, you'll have lots to see and do in Washington. Up next, a few ideas of some of the places and sites you might want to include on your weekend visit to D.C. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you've ever spent a day in our nation's capital, you know there's so much to see and do. And now with the launch of MARC Weekend Service, remember that date, December 7th, the sights, sounds, and offerings of Washington are a brief train ride away. Ronnie Burt, VP of Sales and Services at Destination DC, joins us with a few suggestions of things to do in Washington when you visit there. Ronnie, welcome to Commuter Connections.
Thank you.
Okay, Destination DC, tell us about the organization.
Destination DC is the official convention and tourism organization in the nation's capital. We're responsible for marketing the destination to convention, meetings, leisure visitors, as well as international guests.
Okay, marketing DC, there's so much to do there. How do you do it?
Well, we have a lot of avenues that we do. So specifically in our leisure area, we have marketing, advertising that goes into Amtrak's Arrive magazine, Leisure and Travel magazine, Condé Nast Traveler, as well as we bring in travel writers from around the world to write PR stories about the nation's capital and the things to do beyond the mall. And that's really what we want to get the word out. There's many things to do beyond the National Mall.
Okay, so you say the National Mall. What attractions are right there in the National Mall?
Well, you have a lot of our museums. You also have the World War II Memorial. You have the new Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial. You have the Lincoln Memorial. You have obviously the Washington Monument. So there's a lot to see right on the National Mall as well as the Capitol and our White House.
I'm doing well. I've seen all those things. So I'm doing well. So beyond the mall, what's there to see in D.C.?
Well, beyond the mall, you got to think about there is a community. There's neighborhoods. So we have non-governmental museums like the National International Spy Museum. We have now new shopping areas that are coming online in the museum. We have new restaurants. A lot of the Iron Chefs that have done Top Chef competitions have opened up restaurants in the nation's capital.
So pricing. I mean, the family, Washington seems like a family-oriented place. Is it reasonably priced?
Well, I think what adds the value to a family of four experiences, there is a list of 100 free things to do as well as almost free things to do. The nation's capital has the Smithsonian Museums, which are all free. Okay. So a family of four can take on those experiences at a very great value. Okay, great.
You mentioned the Spy Museum. I've been there. I've got tickets for the museum. Talk to me about this museum. That's one of the newer attractions,
yes,
correct?
The museum opened in 2008, and it is a fantastic 250,000 square foot facility located right on Pennsylvania Avenue. Covers all the world news as well as the national news. There's a great exhibit outside of the museum, right on the front door of it. Covers all the headline stories from around the nation. There's also a 9/11 exhibit in there, which actually has a piece of the tower. We're also running a JFK exhibit right now, so there's constantly a permanent exhibits, but there's also rolling exhibits, traveling exhibits that come into the museum. We also have the Air and Space Museum. It's one of the largest, the most traveled or most visited museums in the world. So there's exhibits in there. There's actually a flight simulator in there. So there's a lot of things that you can do inside the Air and Space Museum.
Wow, one of the most visited in the world.
In the world.
Wow, that's great. Okay, so information on all the things to do in Washington. How do you get that information?
Washington.org. That is our website. So there's also different promotions that will run throughout the year, whether it be buying Nationals tickets with a discount code, but all the events are listed on our website, which is Washington.org.
And you mentioned Washington.org. I've got to slip this in. There may be some Washingtonians who want to travel up to Baltimore. The Baltimore Office of Promotions invites those from Washington up here also. So check out their website also.
Great, absolutely.
Okay. A final message for those who might be taking advantage of the new MARC weekend service. What should they do this weekend?
I think you should come in and spend a day in your nation's capital. There's also things that you can do where you can do a Segway tour. You can do the big bus tours and get around and see all the different neighborhoods, the monuments, experience all the wonderful free things that they're doing in your nation's capital.
Sounds great. I'm headed to DC. Stay with us. Just ahead, a look at MTA safety initiatives when we continue. Safety is paramount at the MTA. It's a very important part of everything we do, from the operation of safe transportation systems throughout the region to maintaining a safe work environment for its employees. It's a huge responsibility, but the MTA Safety Division meets that important challenge every day. Joining us with a look at the agency's safety initiatives is MTA Chief Safety Officer, Ms. Bernadette Bridges. Bernadette, welcome to Commuter Connections.
Thanks, Anthony. Glad to be here.
Okay, glad to have you. Hey, safety, how important is safety to the MTA?
Safety is very important to the MTA. We like to ensure that from the design and planning of our projects, whether it's a new starts like the red and purple line, or if we have to modify any of our train systems or our facilities, or when we hire new employees, we always make sure that we evaluate the safety of our employees, our new systems. So we start to look at the hazards before people are hired, before we build systems. So that's how we make sure that our environment is safe. And we also, take customer calls if they report anything that they see out in the environment or riding our trains or service. We take that in consideration and we go out and actually do investigations on it. So, yeah.
That's great. So a lot of different sides to it. You referenced employees. You mentioned employees. So employee safety is important. So you do training programs and things like that?
We do training programs. We do accident investigations. We do hazard analysis. We do job hazard analysis. Like, for example, if an employee is hired on and he or she is a mechanic, we try to make sure that we look at the hazards of the job before they get the job. So we make sure that if they need to wear goggles or need to wear safety shoes, or they're using the proper tools, instead of if they need to use a screwdriver, make sure they're not using a butter knife. We try to write that down so they're informed.
Okay, so that's internal. Then, of course, external. You mentioned, I found it interesting, calls from customers. So you look for even customers to be the eyes and ears for the safety office.
Of course, like if there's a bus stop that may be missing a sign, or it may be having a crack in the cement. It could be customers calling us about buses speeding in their neighborhoods. It could be a number of things. We actually go out and look at those things. We work internally with our operations group and our safety group. We work together at trying to manage the safety. If we get a call from customers or operators, if they report along the right of way on the train or the bus line, if they report something to us, we go out and investigate it.
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I talked about customers calling in, but I imagine MTA has a safety inspection program. Daily, do they inspect the rails daily, bus systems before they go out on the road? Are there daily inspections?
Bus operators have to do a pre-trip inspection. As rail operators, they actually do pre-trip inspections before they take their vehicles out. Also, along the right-of-way, there are maintenance procedures where the right-of-way is inspected for any defects on the rail in the track area. Also, again, bus lines, we get reports back from our bus operators, again, because they're the eyes and ears, and so are our customers. So we receive reports back from them. We have bus safety committee, rail safety committees. So that's where information comes back to us from our employees, and some from our customers, our customer service group. If customers send out complaints related to safety hazards, we usually get those right away.
Okay, persons are watching. If you could get a single safety message for our rail systems, light rail and metro, what would be your one safety message for persons who use those systems?
The main thing when you're using I always ask our customers to make sure that they're informed. Find out how our system operates. For my website, you can go to www.mtamaryland.com. There's a lot of safety tips on there. But the thing is planning your trip. I think that if you plan your trip and you're not rushing, that you have a better opportunity of having a safe trip because you're better informed and you have time if there are any issues that come up along the in the station or in the bus. If it's a delay, you always have a chance to still get there on time because you're more informed. And so I just say on a rail line, so whether it's MARC, light rail, or Metro, you should make sure you're standing behind the yellow tactile so that, when the train approaches, you're not in the right of way and that you won't be struck by a train. That's very important to us. So, and listen for, the announcements that are being made just so you can be informed.
Thank you so much, Bernadette. Safety is important at the MTA, and so is working to keep the environment clean. MTA operates Metro Subway, light rail, and alternatively fueled buses, which are all environmentally friendly forms of transportation. But MTA's environmental green efforts don't end there.
The Maryland Transit Administration is constantly striving to make their bus, rail, and management operations as energy efficient and environmentally friendly as possible. One important part of the Go Green movement is public transit and the use of hybrid buses.
The hybrid buses, they're basically all electric up to about 10 to 12 miles per hour. The diesel takes over. That's why you don't see the smoke on the takeoff. They're a lot quieter. Matter of fact, they're so quiet now, we have to add a feature to let the patrons know that the bus is actually turning. Other things such as nitrogen in the tires, electric cooling fans, and the list goes on and on. So we're constantly looking for new technology and ways to improve our already efficient hybrid buses.
Another way the MTA is protecting the environment is adding electric charging points at transit locations. These points encourage drivers of plug-in electric vehicles to ride the MTA while charging their vehicles at our transit stations.
We recognize that a lot of the people that are interested in getting around by transit are also interested in doing other things that are environmentally friendly, and using an electric vehicle can be one part of that. At this point, there are 18 charging points, and we want to be able to allow folks to have that convenience of driving to the station, parking, charging their vehicle. When they get back to their car, it's fully charged up and they're ready to go back home.
And the initiative is not only limited to transportation, the agency is serious about improving sustainability. Efforts range from recycling and energy reduction initiatives to green building and design practices.
We changed a lot of lighting at the MTA. A lot of the old fluorescent lighting, there's newer, more efficient lighting. Sometimes you can go to LEDs, and we are verifying the savings, and we're measuring how much electricity we were using with this lighting before and how much electricity we're using afterwards. The other thing we did recently is that we put solar panels on the Northwest bus facility. So we actually generated energy as opposed to saving energy.
We can all do our part to save energy and protect the environment. The task may seem daunting, but an easy and inexpensive way to start is by riding MTA.
Coming up next, we'll answer your customer questions and concerns with Ask the MTA. Stay with us. Welcome back. MTA Systems Engineering's Tammi Bolden joins us with some of our MTA customer questions and concerns. Tammi, welcome back to Commuter Connections. What do you have for us today?
Hi, Anthony. We actually have some great questions about MTA ridership and a very interesting question about light rail that I think you'll like. First question.
My name is Deani and I'm from Baltimore City, and I have two questions. My first question is, when the buses are going to detour, why aren't we alerted that there's going to be a detour catching a bus through downtown? And my second question is, when the buses are running late, particularly the 15, both questions, why isn't there an extended bus sent, or at least a second bus sent, to stop us from being late and being extra crowded on the bus?
That's a great question. Well, the MTA actually does communicate with our customers regarding all service disruption in several ways. On the MTA webpage, there's an e-notification system that's a free service to our customer to receive email and text alerts about service disruptions for bus, for light rail, for Metro, MARC, as well as our mobility services. We also have an MTA transit team that broadcasts this type of information daily mornings, afternoons on radio and TV. And as always, customers can call 410-539-5000 to get the latest information. Next question.
My name is Mary Sue. My question is, why don't they have restrooms at some of these stops?
Well, unfortunately, transit lines are designed to shuttle people to and from their destinations, so it does not necessitate any delays which will require restrooms. However, there are restrooms in the various restaurants and other businesses along the line that the patrons can use. Next question.
My first name is Marcus Hayes, and I live in Glen Burnie, Maryland. And my question to the MTA is, why is it that in the city, the buses run every 15 minutes, but in the county, it only runs once an hour to a destination? I want to go from Cromwell Station to Annapolis.
Ridership on the 14 bus line does seem to be a lot greater during the morning and the afternoon peak periods. However, it tends to lessen during the midday period. But on the other hand, in the inner city, the buses run more frequently because the ridership is more constant all day long in the inner city. So that's why you'll see a greater frequency of buses in the inner city than the county. And our last question.
My name is Phil. I live in Arbutus, and I take the 35 now and then, and when I do, the buses are always packed. And I also ride the 77 now and then, and they seem empty. You got your double buses for the 77, and yet you only have your single buses for the 35. Why wouldn't you run the double buses on the 35 route and the single buses on the 77?
The articulated buses are normally and often placed on lines that really need it based on the ridership. And because of the number of the articulated buses that we have in our service, we try to balance the need of those buses to the routes that actually need them. And once again, we also have the Bus Network Improvement Program, and we'll try to address your inquiry during that effort. If you have any questions that you would like to ask the MTA, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on the MTA website. We would love to hear from you.
That brings us to the end of another Commuter Connections program. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.